Hi, I'm Avon, and in this video we're going to go through Zoho Projects. Zoho Projects is a great project tool. You can slice and dice the information in a multitude of ways. We've got people from sole operators using it as a task list all the way through to very large, hundreds of staff kind of companies that are doing very complex workflows and also doing things like workforce management and, planning of the team, etc. So I'm going to show you a few things in this video. At the moment, I'm in a sandbox environment, so there's no data, but I will show you some areas where we have some reports as well. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of dashboards here, and you can add different widgets. And on the front is very customizable. But this is just the entry screen as you come in. If you click off to the side, you've got this useful little menu here. And so you can go and look at reports. You can see all the projects. We don't have anything here, so let's create one. So let's go, we can look at some templates here. So we can see you can create your own template, but also we've got predefined templates for marketing, sales, manufacturing, etc. And as you can see just by the screenshots, there's different ways to display the information. This is a Kanban card system. This is your standard list sort of style with some milestones. This is a Gantt chart view to show you the timelines and interrelatedness of the critical path and other work tasks. And then we've got very status-driven sort of style. And in here, you can also see there's different owners and people being assigned. There's different taggings, percentages, and different ways to display the information. So each one will have a different focus, but these are just some suggestions to show you how you can use the product. And there's heaps of template there. So let's create a project. Let's do one with the Kanban style. We'll call this one's called security testing. Now, the good thing about this template, and for the purpose of this video, is it's actually loaded me up with a whole bunch of tasks. And it's also done me the favor of giving me all of the dates and things that I need. So it shows me the duration of the task, the priority, the completion, the time. And of course, on the left, you've got obviously the task name, you can start a timer, who the owner is, the status, etc. Now, a couple ways to slice and dice this information. I said that, we could choose how we wanted to show it. And when I clicked the template image, it showed a Kanban style. And at the moment, you can see this is just in a general list. But if we come up here, we can see the word list. And I'm just going to click on that and we can see Gantt and Kanban. So this project template is designed to be a Kanban, and it shows you different phases. And at the moment, there is open, in progress, in review, testing, on hold, delayed. And I think there might be one further over, closed. There we go. And you can also add your own statuses. You can reorder them. You can do all sorts of things. So I'm just going to come up to here as well, and I'm going to select Gantt chart just to show you what's happening in here. And you can see it's created a Gantt chart, and you've got, at the moment, they're all independent tasks. But if you wanted to create a dependency, you can just click on the end and link it to the one in front of it. And we can see that this one is a finish to start. So there are different methodologies on how you link project information. And when you grab the end of the other one and link it to the start of the other one, that's finish to start. There's also finish to finish, start to start, and all the other iterations that you can think of within that. So coming over here, we can see the list of the tasks, and you can see this is the milestone. And then we're at the moment, we're filtering it by weeks, but you could do it by months. We could also look at doing there's quarters, days, years, and custom ranges as well. So if you have quite a large project, this can also help with that. All right, so I'm going to go over to list again, just so that we can see what's happening here. But also, we've got other things here, like we can add a task. We can add a task list. Now, you can add tasks and task lists from templates. So we've also got this filter here. So if we wanted to see all of the completed tasks only, we could filter by that. Or if we wanted to see them owned by a particular person, is or in direct report of, so you could see, maybe a manager and all of their team's tasks. So let's just say the manager is gone away on holiday or something, and you want to reassign all of the team tasks to another manager. So that would be something that you can easily do by using that filter report. All right, so in here, we've got other fields, tags, start date, due date. We mentioned a few of those. Now, you can reorder and you can decide what you want to see. So I just click the button in the corner there, and then we've got billing time, worked hours. These are all just fields that are already on the task record. You can also create additional custom fields. You can also create additional custom page layouts, which means that for different types of projects, you can have different sets of fields. So if you had, three main types of projects, maybe there's a commercial project, a residential project, and a custom project, then you can have different fields for each of those. And then that would mean that you're not displaying the wrong information on each of those project tasks. So within that, each project has its own dashboard, and we can start to see some metrics about that specific project, as well as that whole of organization view. And of course, if we integrate this with Zoho Analytics, we can give a lot more information on reports and dashboards that bring a number of things into play. It might be support tickets as well, or something like that. We've got overdue work items, who's assigned to the task. There's a weekly digest of what we're up to. And as we scroll down, there's a few other bits and pieces here, upcoming work items, today's work items. And you can customize these boards, you can rearrange them, you can hide things that are not relevant. It's quite flexible. So here's the project up here. Now, at the moment, I don't have that sidebar coming over, but I'm just going to click on this view details because it's going to show me the details of the project itself. So this is where, when we're setting up a project, we need to give it a name, and we can easily edit that here. We can, put some comments on it so that we can talk about it with our team. And then you can also @mention other users so that they can get notified when you mention them. And you can also use the hashtag to mention a task or an issue. So going back, let's just look at the whole project. All right, so in here, we've got the ability to go through and look at adding a description. So if I click on the description, we could do things like obviously type. I'm in the sandbox version, but you can also use Zia AI to help you write the description. I like to use a little application, voice to text, really helps me to write a really good description very easily. And then we've got, who's the owner. Now at the moment, we've only got me in here in the sandbox environment. You can delegate to entire teams. So you might set up project teams in your business, and you might have groups of 4 or 5 that are doing different projects, and so you can assign group 1, group 2, etc., or specific individuals, or both. Then we come down to obviously status. We can create custom statuses, start end tags, which helps give a little bit of context. We can create a project ID and then a project group. So before, when we mentioned different types of projects, be it commercial, residential, or custom, then you would create those as a project group, and then you can run group level reports to see how many projects do we have in each of those groups, etc. And then we've got completion time, so when it needs to be done by. Then we've got, in this sales info, these are some custom fields that I added. So there's sales status, for sales follow-up, current client, or do not contact. So say, for example, we had a project that we've completed, and we want to follow up with them in 6 months' time. Or if they're a current client, we can just sort of leave them alone and just let it going. Or do not contact if they've said, no, I don't want to do another project, or if we decide they're a bit painful to deal with. Then this one is our dev as a service mode. So dev as a service info, and it just tells us what our hourly budget is for that client. So then if we come back out of here, let's look into the tasks. That's where we were before, and we could switch between those views. But we've also got other filters up here. So let's just say we want to see, all tasks or open tasks. That's what it's showing us right now. Then you've got closed tasks, overdue, unassigned, all of those sorts of things. And you can create custom views as well. So by controlling the view status, you can, at a high level, control the process that you take these tasks through. So now we're just going to have a look at any kind of issues. So when you're on a task itself, so I'm just going to click on this task here, and I click on View Details. We're going to have that sidebar pop out, and it's given me a title, and then you've got the status. So at the moment it's currently delayed, but we can update the status. You can also do it from here on the grid view, and when we come down here we can add the description, same as the task before. Again, owner, status, due dates, etc. Duration. So duration, obviously, when we looked at that Gantt chart, that we're assessing that task takes 4 days. That could be 4 hours, that could be 4 weeks, or 4 months, or 4 years, whatever you want to put it in there as. All right, so we've got priority, completion percentage. Now, completion percentage can be a little bit of a high level sort of thing, but it's useful to understand, in a large project, how much work is left done at a more granular level. Tags, reminders, recurrence. So if that task is happening every week, every month, you can put that in here. Billing type. Now at the moment we've got just none billable or non-billable, but you can also set task budgets, and you can set work rates, etc. to get that done. Work hours, we're saying that in that 4 days, there's going to be 32 work hours. So you could assign multiple resources to it. So in project management, you've got 2 ways to move a project faster. There is what's called crashing and fast tracking. So crashing is throwing more resources at the problem, getting more people to do the task. Then there is fast tracking, which is just the way you organize the projects to be, or the project tasks to be completed, so that they are done in a faster manner, and that's really just about sequencing and how you schedule that out. And then you've got associated teams. So remember, we can assign a person or a team to a task, and we haven't got any teams created in the sandbox, but you get the idea. And then down here we've got these other components. So comments I mentioned already. Subtasks, pretty self-explanatory. These are subordinate to the primary task. Then you've got log hours, so you can add a time log, and we'll go into that in more detail. You've got documents where you can upload specific things like a contract, scope of works, things like that. Any dependencies, so when we built, when I went to the Gantt chart view and I linked one task to another, it automatically updated this dependency status here. You've got status timeline. So this is just showing you that it's been 12 minutes and 21 seconds since it was delayed, which was when it got created. So you can start to see how long it's taken. If I change something on the record, it's going to update the timeline and then give me a list of all of the tasks that have been completed, or in this case, it's a sequence of events. Issues. Now, this is a log of problems that are holding up that particular part of the project. So if you say, say for example, if I am implementing a software for somebody and there is a roadblock in some way, there's a challenge on the software that is not something that is within your control, then you can submit an issue and it will just let the project manager know that this is a holdup. And so this is like another task, but it sits a little bit behind the scenes, and it's a little bit, it's in a different bucket, if you will. So if we say, cannot log in, and then you could add a description, and then you can add any files, so for example a screenshot or something, and then reminder notifications. You could say, all right, well, I want to be reminded by Wednesday if it's not been assigned or dealt with, and it's going to associate me to the issue. I'm going to set a reminder. So then the add followers, so you might add your project manager, or potentially if you have a client user, you can invite your clients into the project and then you can add it to them. Then you can add issue information, who's the team, assignee, severity, affected milestones, etc. It starts to really give you a good idea on the things that are holding up your project. Now, you may not do this for a small project. This is probably something where maybe there's an issue if you're building a house, an issue with the wood that came, it's not straight enough. In that case, you may have to reorder and get some replacement wood that is straight enough so that you can actually build with it. And that might take a bit of time. And you might be able to do some other work whilst that's being held up. But if you don't know about it and you don't have it logged, then you can't really, at a high level, know what's holding up the project. You also can't then deal with your suppliers to get a better wood supplier to make sure that your product arrives in the way it should, when it should. Okay, if I click in the three dots here, at the moment I've just got it in the sidebar. I can expand that out by clicking this little box icon. I can also add followers to it, and I can change things like colors, copy a link to it, associate what's called a blueprint or a macro. These are some automation rules. We'll go into that in a little bit. And then if you're using the full Zoho suite, you've got access to Zoho Click, which is a chat tool. So you can talk about the project in a chat feed with your team. You've got activity stream. This is a log of things that have been completed, and you can see this is today, this is when it was created. If I tag someone on it, that'll come up in here. If I add a comment, that will come up in here. So we might just quickly do that. All right, so let's just write test, add comment, and we'll go to activity stream, and we can see there was the comment that was added. Okay, if I click in the dots here, we have some integrations available as well. So you can link it to SharePoint, checklists, all these sorts of things as well. And there is also a deep integration with the wider Zoho suite of tools. Okay, so in here we go to milestones. Now these are high level groupings, so there's not a lot of additional information on these milestones. And so we would be able to select an owner. So we've done test, and it's given us the end date, etc. So I could put a little bit more information and then say, all right, well, this is going to be done by the end of the month. There's no tasks under it at the moment, but you can change that. And the status is active, and that's about it. And so you can see list, or you can see Gantt chart. So that's milestones. And then you go to documents. Again, anything that you've saved up against any of the tasks will come into here. At the moment, this is showing the entire project. So this will roll up all of the subtask attachments to show you all the projects. You've also got a platform called Zoho WorkDrive, which, if you've got Zoho 1, is a file storage platform, and you can link it in here and store up to 10 terabytes of information. Timelogs. Now, this is a time tracking tool, and we'll go into the settings and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a moment. But if we just go add a time log, very simply, let's look for the task. Okay, let's do this one. And date, user, daily log, or if you want to put in the start time and end time, and then whether it's billable, non-billable, any other notes, etc. All right, so let's go to finance. So again, you can enable finance and link it to Zoho Books, billing or invoice. These are 3 different payment platforms within the Zoho Finance suite of tools. We always recommend that everybody goes with Zoho 1 because it gives you so much more power and flexibility in how you manage data. And it gives you all those other tools like WorkDrive, Books, Click, and the things that you've seen in the background here. Okay, so in the Users tab, it's only showing me because I'm in the sandbox environment. But if you had others in here, you've got different types of roles and permissions that you can give. And then you can also invite other users, such as portal users. Now these, and again, I'm limited by the sandbox, but portal users are like your customers. You can invite them in and they can see tasks that you assign to them, and they can see the progress of the project as it's going along. This might be external contractors, it might be customers that you're working with, but either way, you've got the ability to give access external. Let's jump into reports. Now, reports at the moment, this is the workload report, and it's kind of defaulted all of the tasks to me. But if I had multiple users, you'd see all of their workload. In here, we can see that blue is optimally allocated. So I've got 8 hours of availability, and then it's showing that I've got been assigned 8 hours. If I come over to one of these red squares, it is showing that I'm over allocated because on that day, it's a day off and I may not be scheduled to work that day. And on this day, I'm scheduled for 2 days when I'm only available to work for 8 hours. You can also filter and change things. At the moment, this is showing a heat map, or you might want to show it as a timeline, or you might want to see it as a bar chart. And this really gives you the work package layout. And if you had multiple projects, you can do things like start to move it around and reassign tasks so that they can be a little bit more clearly delegated to different people. If I have a look also, I've got planned versus actual. So when I'm billing my time, that it would show me how many available hours, how many planned hours, and what were the actual hours and any differences that have been completed. And then you can also build custom reports as well, which then just allow you to pull different stats from the project. And in here, I've just clicked the 3 dots here, and you've got the ability to add a module or a web tab. So you might have a couple of modules behind the scenes. So in here, we've got forums, pages, or expense claims, or you could create a custom module or a web tab. So a module would be almost like having a spreadsheet of information, or a web tab would be like accessing a website. So for example, you had a portal that you needed to access as part of doing your work, or you wanted to have a link to a demo environment or a testing environment, then you could store that one up here very easily. All right, so let's go back out now to the home, because now that we've created a project, we've now got a dashboard or some data to go on this global dashboard. We can also create different dashboards for different purposes. So you might create a dashboard for a project manager, you might create one for a owner level, whatever it is that you want to slice and dice that info. We click back over here. The reports that we looked at just before were on the project level, and this is on the whole of business level. So this reports page would look across all open projects and all open tasks, and would show you how you are assigned to each of those. And again, we've got those same plan versus actual, custom, or time log reports, etc. And of course, we can go and build more reports. Now we have this collaboration tab. It's just an easy way to see some of the things that have been happening. So it's just a quick place to have a look at the feed. You can see a calendar, and you can see a chat feed should you wish to have conversations about specific projects. Now we mentioned before that you have tasks. So this would be a list of all tasks in your organization across multiple projects, and issues being in a separate bucket. It's same as a task, but it's slightly different. And so you can more proactively manage issues. And then this is also a global view of all milestones and a global view of all time logs. And in the projects here, you've got the ability to search quickly. Now, some simple navigation items. I can hit the plus button and I can create from anywhere, or if I want, I can create any number of these. So we've got users, issues, time log, milestones, etc., and then quickly add them. I've got global search here, where I can search all projects, or I might want to search all active projects or a specific projects if it's in there. I can see my notifications feed here, and then I can update, mark all as read. So if someone mentions me on a task, I know that I can find it there. I'll also get an email from that. I can look at my timer. So if I have any timers running, I can stop them. I can manage a floating timer, which will sit just here on the screen. And then I can just hit start, stop, or I can hit the plus button and look up whatever it is that I want to track time against. Okay, so let's jump into the settings. So I have the ability to customize the layout, and I can, choose some colors. I can decide what page I want to land on when I first enter the portal. And you've also got some accessibility controls. So if people have some vision impaired things that they need to deal with, they can come in here and, manage the things to do with the keyboard, how it scrolls, the size of the text, etc. If we go into portal configuration, so we can build custom portal, and we can set up a custom domain and manage user permissions and hierarchies. We can set our default business hours and holiday lists. So this interacts with your availability or your work booking. So when it showed that I was tasked on a Sunday, that it was managed here with the working hours. So this will just tell us, are we overloaded? Have we considered the right days, the work days. So if you deal with a project, you need to understand the number of working days you have available to you in order to get that project moving forward. Time log settings. So when logging your timesheets, how exactly is that being done? Is it task and issue owners? Can anyone log time or only associated team members? Allowing hours for closed tasks and issues. So you might retrospectively go back, put a little bit of extra time in to fix a thing. Otherwise, if you want to lock that down, you can turn that feature off and then it won't occur. Allowing multiple timers, or do you want them only to track one thing at a time? And restriction based on tasked work hours. So can they only log time when they are allocated that work, or can they just jump in and track time at any time of the day? Then there's other things like time log overlap. There was a case recently where a lawyer was found to be billing for 180 hours in one day. So you need to allow controls to restrict that depending on your work environment. You can set a log hour limit. You may say that they can only log working hours, or they might be able to go over by 2 hours. Whatever you want to say, you can put that in here, or weekly log limit. Let's just say you can only log 40 hours a week. Particularly if you've got a contractor or something like that, you might want to control the budget. You don't want them going over and logging time at 2 a.m. in the morning, for example. You can set an automated time log reminder. So if they've not logged more than 1, 2, or 3 hours in a day, that you can send them a reminder to go back in and update that time log. And of course, you can have time log approvals, and you can require your management team to go through and check all of the time that's been completed. So we mentioned before the standard modules here. We've got projects, tasks, issues, time log, milestone. Sometimes you might have another one, which is resources. So resources might be a vehicle that needs to be booked, or it might be a boardroom, or some kind of machine or thing that you need to use to complete the project. So you could have that, and in that module, you could create a status for it, whether it's booked and what dates it's booked for. So that would be an example of a custom module that you could create. Layouts, we mentioned this before. If you had different types of projects, you could have a different layout for each project. You might have different fields that need to be completed. Maybe there's a specific serial number that needs to be used for each one. And by having that page layout, you can use custom fields so that each page layout is different, but very specific to each project. You can do the same for tasks, issues, time logs, milestones, etc. Custom fields allow you to store one piece of information. I mentioned before that we had this dev as a service hours field where we can put that budget target of how many hours we're supposed to complete in that month. And so if we have a custom field, we can just enter the number, and then we can just look at that, and then that's a default for that client project, and that goes. Now when creating your page layouts, that's where you create the actual fields. This field list just shows you what custom fields you have, and for example the API name. So it kind of gives you a summary view of all the custom fields that you've created. So if I wanted to actually create a custom field, I'd come back to this layouts tab, I'd select the layout, and then once that loads, I've got this view that I can go through and grab. So I can click and drag any of these standard fields at the top. So we've got summary, URL, email, decimal, percentage, checkbox, and then I've got the ability to add another 185 custom fields to this page before I've run out. So I've added a couple. We've got things like the budget, we've got the DAS hours, and so I could then grab an email. Maybe there's a primary contact, maybe there's a inbox that I need to manage or something like that. So I can drag these additional fields across. If we go over here, you can see we've got new fields. So this is going to create a new one. We've got available fields. Now these are system fields that are automatically created when you set up the system for the first time. So we can see all default fields have been left on the page. So there's nothing that's been pulled out. I do have some custom fields here. So test user and pick list. I must have tested something in the past and then taken them off, but that's fine. I can just click and drag it and bring it back onto the page layout here. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to remove it. It's just as simple as clicking, click remove, and then it's gone. Layout rules. So you might have and again, I'm blocked a little bit by the sandbox environment here, but you might have a specific sequence of fields that need to be displayed. And so let's just say if the project gets to a certain point and you indicate a status, say for example, halfway, and at the halfway mark, there's an additional 5 questions that need to be answered. But you don't want to answer those questions, or you don't want to display those fields until it's time to answer those questions. So you might say only when the status is halfway will you then display the 5 fields that need to be completed. This is a layout rule. Again, this can be done on tasks, on projects, and all sorts of layers of the system. So in automation, this is quite simply just a workflow builder, and we've got workflow rules. So we've got some workflow rules. This is on the task. I could click into projects, Timelogs, or users. But basically this one, notify owner on task assignment or status change. So it will send an email notification when a task is assigned or the status is changed. And it will happen on all layouts, and it will execute on the update of the owner start date. Okay, so then I would then give it, the status would be whether it's on or not. So you can turn these rules on or off. And then on the blueprint is kind of like a fixed process of how you do things. So you can force the tasks to go through a specific process in order for them to be completed. So say for example, this one, start job, submit for review. This one it says rework, and then review and close. So as soon as I create a task, it's open, and then I've got a button here, I click, and it says start job. So this would display just above the description section on the task itself. So when I go start job, I'm allowing the task owner or the administrator to do the starting of the task. If I go to during, I'm asking for certain fields to be completed. So I want to know the owner, the start date, the priority, and the comments. After that, I would be able to add a trigger. So it would then say, send an email, update a field, trigger a custom function, or a webhook. So in this one, I've actually got submit for review and review and close. So only I, as the administrator, can close a task. Submit for review is what the staff send to me when they have completed their part of the task and they want me to check it. If I think it's not good enough, I will select rework, and they will get reissued the task. But up until that point, if they select submit for review, on that trigger, I have an email alert which will get sent to me, and I will then be able to click in and view that task from my email. And then I can review whether or not they actually did that work, and then I can complete the task, or I can reassign it back to them to do the work again, or to try again with some comments, etc. Now, custom function and webhook, now these work with the rest of Zoho. You can run a script, you can webhook, which means trigger something in another platform. Maybe the task is customer onboarding, and you might you might have one particular task that then triggers a webhook, which then triggers a demo instance in another software. So that's something you could use a webhook for. Alternatively, the custom function, let's just say you have a broader Zoho suite, or if you want to do anything else in projects, you can get into the code and you can make it do what you want it to do, even if you can't see it here in this platform. All right, so that is the blueprint. Email templates, pretty self-explanatory, but if you want to review a specific task template, you've got next stage, and it just says next stage for project, and then next stage allocation for project. So that's a template, and then using the workflows back here, you can trigger those email templates. So you have to build the template here, and then you have to trigger them in the workflow or in the blueprint. Email alerts, these are again very similar. So let's go add email alert, and then you might say email alert name might be a particular status update, and you then want to select the template which we built on that last screen. Then you would select who gets the email, and then you say notify any other teams, users, etc. Webhooks, we mentioned that is a integration off to another platform to trigger another thing. So maybe when a project is completed, you might send a webhook to a third-party delivery service to send a nice card to say thank you for completing a project with us. Macro rules, these are a way to do several things in one go. So a macro rule, if you say task owner is unassigned, you would update a field to project owner. It's kind of like workflow rules. It is a little bit limited. A macro is quite simple. A workflow involves more automation and potentially coding. Now, automation credits is when you're running workflows and blueprints and tasks and things, you will chew up some credits. Now, this, I've never seen anybody use all of their credits. So don't be too concerned. The credits that come here, you get a free credit reset, is really just to stop people building some kind of spammy work engine that will automatically update 1,000 people in 2 seconds. So you don't need to be too worried about this because for the most part, nobody even comes close to using all the credits. Marketplace, there are some little widgets and things coming, so keep an eye out for that one. The developer space, this is where, again, your custom functions, custom code might say, update this particular, or make 5 updates or create new projects when other projects are completed. This is when you're getting more into specific developer kind of functions. So most people don't need to worry too much about that. Schedule functions, again, it's in line with the development piece, but it just means that you put maybe a daily trigger, a weekly trigger, or a event-based trigger to then say, all right, well, every time this happens, we're going to run that code. So they kind of work together. Extensions, these can be things that look up information in other platforms. Again, it's a developer thing. Connections, these all work together to create the extensions and the functions. And then you've got code scripts and code credits. Again, it's a developer function. We won't worry about that too much today. Data administration, you can export all of your data. So if you are worried about security on the platform, one, it is a really good platform and it is quite secure. But if you are sharing passwords, you do put yourself at risk. That's not the platform fault, that is a user problem. So we would recommend that people take exports on a semi-regular basis anyway. But if you're worried about that, you've got the recycle bin. Not only can you control permissions to see who can delete, who can update, who can create, you probably want to have this recycle bin so that if somebody deletes a task, you can come back in, you can restore it. It does have a 60-day hold before they're permanently deleted. However, we did have an incident where a rogue employee deleted hundreds of records and then deleted them from the recycle bin, and it got past the 60-day period. We were able to go and rescue that from Zoho directly by raising a special request. It took some time, but we were able to recover the data successfully. Now, it's not going to happen in every case, so please be careful and use your cybersecurity prowess. All right, audit log. And again, this is just a history of all of the tasks and all of the functions and all of the things that have been done in the system. So if you need to come back and say, we need to check what this employee did, you can see who at what time did what, and this will give you the history to be able to make sure that you can identify when a problem has occurred. This is pretty common, particularly useful for developers because they're looking at when a particular function was triggered, and that's usually just a timing of coding. And then we've got sandbox. Again, we are in the sandbox now, so it's given me a list of all of the changes that I've made. Again, this is not a full live instance, but without showing you all customer data, I have to do it this way. And then we've got manage users. I can't show you portal or client users because that's going to expose email IDs, but basically it looks like this. We've got the username, email, role, profiles, and etc. Teams, this is where you can create a team and then you can add all of the users within that team. And then we've got the ability to adjust the profiles and roles. These are like the permission sets that you need to be able to use the system. So here we can see what are the actions, what are the roles. So we've got admin, employee, manager, contractor. You could add another one for specific purposes. And then of course we've got the different capabilities. So say for example, this one, we've limited it. Can they do one thing? Can they add? Can they edit? Can they deal with any of the tasks? Or are we limiting everything that they can do? And then we've got, these people can edit, but they can't edit and they can't delete. And this is for in the task list. So they can't edit tasks and task lists. Milestones, they can only edit ones that they own. They can't approve time logs, but an admin can, or a manager can. So those are the sorts of things that you can deal with in the permission sets, and then in the roles as well. You've also got client profiles and system fields. So if you want clients to be able to reorder tasks, for example, or if you want them to view a task list or a milestone, etc. So you're giving them specific permission sets. So that is Zoho Projects. It's a very complex project management platform. And again, we use it with sole operators all the way through to companies with hundreds of staff and very complex processes. We're able to get into the code and do very unique things with this. We're able to see and manage workforce utilization, making sure that people are being tasked with things. You can do it in a Kanban view if you like the agile methodology and you just want to grab tasks off the list, or you can do it in a waterfall method where you can say, right, we have to put the slab down before we put the walls up, before we put the roof on, etc. So that is a powerful way to give you the flexibility you need to run virtually any other project in your business. So whether you're a marketing person, whether you are a complex project user, it doesn't matter. You can do a hell of a lot with Zoho Projects. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Avon Collis at Relevate. Please do give us a like and a subscribe and let us know what you thought in the comments. And if you've got any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for watching. Watch out for the next video right here.